And we back, episode 2 of the Green Room. And you know what I want y'all to do? Just keep on smoking, baby. Decent amount has happened, you know. Anyway, but yeah, so I was promoting for a while, promoting just for local shows like Philly, local shit, and then eventually I started going to festivals, and I found this festival, Big Dub, great festival, fantastic fest, it changed my life for nothing but, I mean, there's been a little bit of negative on my end, like through my experiences, but that's the thing. There's been an overwhelming negative overall, so that whole thing had to get chalked. Scratch that joint off the board. We ain't worried about that no more. And it's sad to say, but it had to happen. We have to have a safe space in this community for everybody. So if people are involved with that are bad, get them out of here. Get them out of here. Like, the frustration is definitely warranted. We gotta think about who is responsible for this, though, and make sure we focus our energy on the right people, because I feel like we can blow back and harass people who we think are involved when they aren't really behind the scenes, you know. Like me, I'm just a foot soldier, you know, I just promote. But there's other people who are getting backlash, who are upper tier in the system, but still distant from the actual bad, you know what I mean? But it's hard to differentiate in the time. It's hard to differentiate when you get the rage. Overall, though, we have to come together, you know, and understand that people were victims. And people still are victims, you know what I mean? We've had to stand with the victims as a whole. As a community, we have to understand. So that's what we gotta do. And it's bittersweet. I mean, Big Dub was something that I looked forward to every year. It was a happy spot for me, mostly because I could see my friends. You know, I have friends that live distant from me, hours from me. We could all meet up in this one location and chill. Personally, I never really even talked to the higher ups in these companies. Like, people can vouch for me. They'll be there, and like, I know who they are, you know. We know each other. I have you on the Facebook, you know, but I'm not saying nothing to you. I'm not saying hi to you. You know, it's that's who it is type situation. It's not, I'm not saying what's up to you, you know. But then again, there are other higher ups where every time I see them, I do say what's up, because relationships are like that. There's good and there's bad to every situation. It's really, really hard, though, to differentiate sometimes the good and the bad. And it's a challenge that we all have to face every day. I'm going to spin off from that topic. So lately, I've been getting into some comic book reading. I don't know if anyone else be into the comic books, you know. But one of my favorite characters of all time, Cyclops. This man, leader of the X-Men, I feel like he's always been criminally underrated. Well, I went back, I started reading some old school. I'm in 2004. Astonishing X-Men, Joss Whedon. There's a writer, I'm sure you guys recognize the name from the MCU. But pretty much, this little arc we're going with focuses on the idea of a cure for mutation. The idea that these mutants are sick with a disease, and that they need help with a cure, and that they can be fixed, you know. such a very strange concept for a whole group of individuals when you think about it. But to really understand it, you have to understand the way that the X-Men correlate with race issues and everything like that. I mean, it's not uncommon to hear that Charles Xavier, Magneto are both allegories for Martin Luther King and Malcolm X respectively. But the whole idea of mutants as a whole could be an allegory for race issues in America and all over the world, really. The idea of shoot first, ask later, animal first, thug first, and then the token good one or the token, oh, you're not so bad. It's seen throughout all X-Men and POC history. The way they correlate is very interesting once you dive deep into these stories. One thing that hit me particularly well was, I can't remember the exact character. I think it was maybe Kitty Pryde, who Kitty Pryde herself, she had a little bit of a troubled past. I don't know if you guys know, but she is one of the characters, I think maybe the only X-Men character who's ever dropped the N-word. Oh my god, it was wild. Pretty much, it was a situation where she was being like mobbed by humans and they were all going at her, and a black person was calling her a mutant freak, mutant scum, you know, and she responded with the N-word. Is that not the same? Is that not the same derogatory term that you're using to me? Yeah, I mean, I'm not a bad person, but you inflame my name with the race that or my creed, you know, it's the same situation. But Kitty Pryde, I mean, that was old school comics. That would never fly. Marvel would get fucking canceled if they did that shit today. But pretty much it was a conversation where someone presented the idea, actually not, I think I do remember, it was Kitty Pryde presenting the idea that, hey, so what if they make a cure? That's not gonna harm us in any way, so what? Some people don't like being mutants, and that's okay. But Emma Frost responds, how naive could you be? If they design a cure for mutants, when they already have these sentinels hunting us down, they already have this mutant-human war brewing every day, you know, the next thing they're going to do is line us up and force it on us and or execute us. And that makes me think really about the situation that we have in America, you know, right now, the civil unrest, the way things are now. It's really just comply until we cannot any longer, and then it's deadly force every time. Sometimes deadly force out the gate. Most of the time, deadly force out the gate. Which is very similar to how the X-Men were treated. There's even an instance where Cyclops, the leader that he is, he decides, hey, you know what? Maybe we do only deal with X-Men issues. Maybe we do only deal with mutant issues. Maybe we should try to branch out. So they go to New York, there's a giant monster, a huge monster, like Godzilla level kaiju, you know, and they're attempting to subdue it, but they're met with the Fantastic Four, and immediately Ben says, what the hell, they're in our turf. Big monsters are our deal. And it's played off comedic, yes, but it's like, come on, bro. You're telling me you've been doing this for years, you don't want a little bit of help, like it's going to be it's hurting you, that the mutants are assisting, you know? So then, fast forward, they take down the monster. And then another interesting comment from the Fantastic Four. Reed Richards goes, yeah, actually, what are you doing out here? And Cyclops answers, maybe we should be out here. We are residents of this land, are we not? And Johnny Storm is a person who, I mean, I'm not really a big fan of Johnny Storm. I like his power set and all, but he says something that's like, okay, it's like, well, if we're with them, what will the media think? And that's a big point where it's like, you think about today, in a world that we live in, people are afraid to be around people POC. If we're with POC, how will they view us? This classism, this racism, this sexism, any way, it's a superiority complex of, oh, if we're with them, then we're just as bad, or we're just as low. When in reality, Fantastic Four, yeah, some of their powers are great, but I mean, like, come on, dude, the entire X-Men, you four are better than the entire X-Men. I mean, Reed do be doing some crazy ish, I'll give him that, but it's like, come on, bro. But despite all this, the X-Men still just triumph, you know? At the end of the day, they always win, despite all these adversities from not only other teams, but then they have team members themselves, Emma Frost being a former villain, reformed, as so they say, attacking the team herself in this run. It's like they have no stops. Constant bombardment. And they have to learn to toughen their skin just to take it. That's just the way it is. After a student was coerced to commit suicide in the danger room, Wolverine shows up in front of the students and says, that's just how it is. That's war. You know? The classic speech that they try to give anyone, really, that, oh, you just gotta man up. You just gotta buckle up those bootstraps, you know, pull it together. To a student replied, my best friend just died in front of me, with tears in her eyes. And Wolverine says, okay, and that's war. So pretty much the lessons that you're learning from this issue are just to shut off your emotions. Some things you can't fight, you know what I mean? You are inevitable to some issues, powerless to some conflicts, but to others you are mountainous. You can conquer all, you know? And it's really about just understanding which issues are which. The good and the bad. Last episode I talked about like my name and everything like that, my alias or whatever. Ouroboros, Oro, 140 Oro, which is my current, you know what I mean? But I really wanted to get into the idea of Ouroboros, what Ouroboros even is, like where I got it from, everything like that. So pretty much the idea came from the concept of Ouroboros, which is a serpent, maybe even sometimes we're called the world serpent, you know, very similar to that concept, where it's a snake or a dragon depicted eating its own tail, a cycle of infinity. And for me, that highlights the idea that there is always good and bad, you know. Sometimes you'll be so hungry that you're starving, and the only food left is your own past, you know. Sometimes we become stagnant or become a little depressed or a little down on ourselves, and we get to a barrier or a challenge that we have previously faced and failed at, or previously struggled with, or a conflict that we may have been able to avoid and we cannot do it. And for me, it's nicer to think about the idea of my past mistakes and the past burdens that I've bared, and how I could use those to fuel a future that I want. For instance, all these experiences that I've had and everything fuel this podcast. It gives me something to talk about, gives me something to feel, you know. Gives me a genuine sense of a conversation where I'm just able to just spit my free thoughts out here, you know. And it's not like anyone couldn't do a podcast. I'm sure it's not like difficult to just talk about things, but it's also easier once you experience things. I do believe that everything happens for a reason, so it's easier for me to accept this concept as well. I mean, if you don't believe that, then it'll be harder for you to accept this concept of your past creating your future. Because if everything happens for a reason, then you've had to go through every tribulation that you felt. People passing, animals passing, car troubles, any trouble you can think of, job troubles, unemployment, whatever you can think of. But once you felt that salvation of reaching the destination you desired, it felt as almost all those troubles had never existed. Wrong? Am I wrong on that? I don't think so. It's like the sensation of vacation. The idea of a date looming in your brain. Oh, I can't wait for this date. I can't wait for this trip. Months and months and months. And eventually you get there, and the trip's not what you thought it was. It wasn't as fun, but still it was better than normal life, because it was something that you built up. You used normal life as a sort of slate, like a control. That's something to build from. Whereas the destination or the goal would be the vacation. Manifesting that, working those hours, getting the money, getting the tickets, everything like that, all the work that goes into that. For me, the manifestation of this podcast is getting all the equipment, looking up how to record properly, get the proper sound, what decibel I should record at, where, stuff like that, it's all part of it. And also, Ouroboros just sounds cool. Ouroboros, it's hot. I don't know. It's hot. Oro. O-R-O? That's fire. Like, what? I'm gassing myself up here. But yeah, pretty much it's just, I don't know, sometimes you get down. I feel like everyone does. I mean, you see these celebrities who have everything that we could possibly want, and they still have mental issues. So it just goes to show that fame and fortune, these desires that plague our mind sometimes aren't the end all be all. You have to find the little things, the happiness that you can get in every day. And then once you get to that future, you'll be even happier. 140 Oro out.